Is it? Can you see like the little levels?
I can right now, in
It's
fact.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Drew,
Hi, this is Becky.
and we are talking Game of Thrones today. Season 8, Episode 69. Um, and it's called, there's no title for a little bit there, but it's called A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. What were your thoughts on it?
I thought it was great. As much as I enjoyed last week's episode, I thought this one was the one I wanted last week. The episode I wanted that I didn't know I wanted.
Yes.
You know, and I really think that I read that Dan and Dave, who do the show, who the producers of the show, called this one a love letter to the characters.
Of course.
But I think it was a love letter to the fans.
Yes.
I think it was definitely for the people who love the show to give us all these moments before all hell breaks loose, literally and figuratively, and we cry our eyes out in the future. So I really think this was just an amazing, amazing episode.
It was great. I mean, it's crazy that we're at this point where, like, because this episode, it's scary because it is like the classic Helm's Deep, Lord of the Rings, like preparing for battle that, you know, everyone could theoretically die in, which, and honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised at this point. But generally, I had a similar opinion. Like, this episode is way better than last week, just because it felt like there was more things happening, or at least some things moving in the right direction, or just maybe it was just funnier, and I love that aspect of it. But now that the table is officially set, like I was hoping the table would be set by like episode 1 and episode 2 at least have like the start of the battle maybe or something. But like I'm not too disappointed because I know like the next week is going to be like the next 4 episodes of the TV show will be like 4 hours of like each episode's going to be like an hour and a half long of just like the biggest, like I've heard articles and stuff that this is going to be the biggest battle, like biggest and longest battle like in any fantasy show, any like Saving Private Ryan movie. Like this is gonna be the longest one action sequence like ever, and I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's going to be like 4 episodes. I think they're all at least 80 minutes long, I believe, and they are going to be like little movies.
Yeah.
You know, it's all a bunch of little movies. I just wish I could see them on a big screen like a movie, but maybe somebody will show this season at some point at the movie theater. That would be really great.
Speaking of industries such as trials, we're going to go right into the episode here. Jaime on trial. I think generally, too, as well, I think like last week was kind of Jon's episode to get reacquainted with everybody and for him to be dropped the bomb that he is Aegon Targaryen. That's more of his episode last week. But I feel like this week, really, like the main standouts, like besides Tormund, obviously, is like Jaime and like Dany had some really good moments that like will like predict the course and set up what will happen to them in the next like 4 episodes or so. But right to the trial, the first thing that starts in the episode, I didn't watch any previews as usual, so I didn't see any of this, but like I was so excited to see how this would happen. What did you think of the whole trial in general? Are you happy that, do you think everything was mentioned that should have been said in the trial to defend Jaime?
Yeah, I absolutely. And I think that I liked the fact that Jaime didn't try to lie his way out of anything. He said, this is what I did, and I did it for these reasons. We were at war, and I did these things to protect my family. And he wasn't apologetic about it. I think that's a sign of like the new Jaime, or the Jaime who has developed over these seasons, is taking responsibility. And you know, if they wanted to execute him for that, then he was going to be all right with it, because he did what he did because he had to, in order to protect his family. And certainly Dany and Sansa and everybody else in the show should understand that. So I thought that the way he dealt with it was very mature and very much the new Jaime. And I was surprised at how angry Dany seemed at him. I know he killed her father, but she also has said before she knows that her father was not a good king and that he was crazy. So I was a little surprised at that, but I'm glad it didn't take up more time of the show than it took up, because
we need like a long, like all of season 4 in King's Landing basically was like, oh, Tyrion's going to be on trial for killing Joffrey. That was basically like the crux of like the whole like mid-season of all of season 4. But like, yeah, the Jaime stuff, obviously the apocalypse, as we've mentioned too, like, so like we're gonna get this moving and fast and over with. But I thought that scene was so great because Jaime, I feel like the character is so evolved, and like I said even last week that I don't like him because he's done some really heinous things, but at the same time he still is just, like, all about honor. Like he used to be all about honor like in the past, and about like how he chose to view his own honor as like, oh, but because he was always just so smug. And I'll have some quotes I want to reference back to the first season here, but I love this new Jaime. He said, I love it. Like Sansa said, like, you attacked my father in the street. He said, I did that because we were at war and I would have done it again. Because at that point, you're right. Because I just think like Tyrion, his brother, was kidnapped by Catelyn. And he said like he needed to protect Tyrion. Like Jaime like attacked Ned on the street because he wanted Catelyn to release Tyrion. And like Ned wouldn't give in and wouldn't like, he's like, oh, Tyrion's going to pay for his crimes. But then Jaime, knowing that Tyrion didn't try to kill Bran, like, I mean, that was, I was surprised he was so aggressive. But yeah, you're right. I loved everything he said. One thing, the classic TV show trope I hate, of course, we keep mentioning, is like when characters who know things don't tell other characters they can understand. And there's some other classic TV like plot conveniences we'll talk about later. But the fact that he didn't say, like when she said like, oh, you killed my father, he didn't say, hey, actually I decided to save all of the million people of King's Landing because your father planned to, like, that's one of the things where just like Bran being pushed out the window by Jaime is that public knowledge.
Right, yeah, because he definitely has never said that to anybody but Brienne. I don't think. I'm not even sure Cersei knows that.
That's the truth. And I feel like while Robert Baratheon pardoned him, like if Jaime was on trial back then when he was like 17 years old after killing the Mad King, he would have brought that up. But like but he wouldn't be like, it's just one of those things like he wouldn't be ashamed of the fact of why the reason he did it was why he did it, which is saving all those people at King's Landing. So it was weird he didn't say that at the trial, like when he was 17 years old, and this trial where like Dany can be like, oh right, I guess my father was a murderer and a terrible person.
Right. I really have wondered before why, like going back to when he first told Brienne about it, and he had been called Kingslayer, and all those times, and he never defended himself against that. And I really did wonder then when we first found out as the audience too, when Brienne found out, why he had never told anybody that, because he was viewed, even by the people who were supporters of the Lannisters, he was viewed as somebody who was disloyal. And so why didn't he ever defend himself? And, I don't know.
Because maybe it wasn't an accident, but maybe it's like a Walter White moment where like he just got so angry all of a sudden he decided to do it. Like he just needed to. It's weird. It's never explained. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, absolutely. Except by the fact maybe that you hit on it by saying he was 17 and he probably didn't have the wherewithal to deal with those emotions and to deal with the fact he probably just reacted to what he was hearing and didn't want everybody in town to die, which is a good thing. But he probably didn't really know how to process it or deal with it. And I don't know, it brings up the question, did Robert Baratheon know? And I have thought it was weird, his silence about it. But Jaime never seems to defend himself against any charges. I mean, I know the charges of him having sex with his sister were true, but even when those were made, he didn't defend himself. And I wonder if part of that is because the Lannisters just don't feel like any apologies are necessary for anything.
Like, yeah, because he's always been able to fall back on, oh, I'm better than you because I'm a Lannister and I'm rich. Which, like, I think has changed since, like, Locke cut his hand off. Because it's such a great thing of, like when he got his hand cut off, such a great representation of, like, him losing, like, all of his honor, like, with his sword capabilities, but also, like, saying that, like, oh, just because I'm rich doesn't mean that I can get away with anything. It's very strange because it's one of those things where, like, he even says, like, oh, you think Ned Stark would have believed me? Where it's like, yeah, man, he would have.
Right, Ned would have.
Just
absolutely.
one of those things where maybe I need to watch, like, season 3 again or something. But I just feel like there's more. Maybe, like, when he's dying in Brienne's arms, he'll be like, oh, I was actually just a scared little boy. And then, I don't know. But let's talk about Jaime just, like, throughout the whole episode, like, his talks with Tyrion. I loved the talk they had just in the courtyard of Winterfell, when he basically said, like, oh, I never realized that Cersei was such a monster. And, like, I never realized that, like, she really wouldn't follow out her word or anything. But, like, Tyrion says, like, oh, you knew she was a monster, but you loved her anyway. And I look back on season 1, and he has that crazy scene where it's, like, and then he said, like, I will kill everyone in the world, so it's just you and me. And she, like, got, like, like she loved that. But like I feel like he was the always one who would talk up the crazy, angry, like, oh, I'll kill everyone in the world for you, Cersei. But he didn't actually mean it. But Cersei thought he did mean it.
Yes, because she was not happy with him several times throughout the series, but especially when he decided to leave and to fulfill the promise that they had made to fight for the living. I think he's a very interesting character, and I wonder almost, did he love Cersei more than she really loved him?
Absolutely, yeah. Because I think she was just in love with the idea of being loved.
Yes.
Just that classic thing of like Stockholm syndrome, or like I think there's a word called like codependency, where like she needs him, but like when they separated for like 3.5 straight seasons, or like 2 seasons, like see all of season 2, all of season 3, basically, like she became separated from, like, first time Jaime and her have ever really been separated. Her real nature like was drawn out more and more when she had to be more conniving and do bad stuff. And so when Jaime came back, kind of a changed man and different than when he left, which was he was all pious and douchebag and constantly, but like he came back more humbled. But she got even more power crazy and like angry, and like as the seasons go by, Cersei was revealed more and more to have like no sympathy towards anyone except her children. And once they were gone, it's a great dichotomy in relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that some of the hints that I've seen that tell me that he loves her more than, or he did love her more than she loved him. There's the point when he's captive and he's telling his cousin or someone that
second cousin
that he never, or maybe he's telling Catelyn. I'm not sure, but that he never had sex with anybody but Cersei in his life. And even though I read some of last week's episode when Cersei had sex with Euron, that was only the third person other than Robert Baratheon and Jaime she had ever had sex with. That was not true, because even on this show she had sex with
Lancel.
What's it? Lancel
Lannister.
Lannister.
Lancel Lannister.
And
what kind of name is that?
That's right. It's that weird. It's not quite Lancelot, but almost. But I definitely got the idea when she did that, though, and the way Tyrion reacted to it, that was not an unusual thing for her to do. And so I think she's always had her little guys on the side. And Jaime, apparently, even though he was in a place where he could have gone to
anyone,
to anyone, and women do just fall down for him. And also he could have visited Baelish's special places. He didn't, and I think that also is very telling.
And like when Cersei gave her monologue to the priest lady, who's all like, shame, like she said, like I have sex with my brother because it feels good. Like I'm going to have the mountain do terrible things to you because it feels good. Like she like Jaime has a classic, like I've only ever been with one person, and like that's what's kind of connected us. But Cersei, it's like I just want to feel good, and and when Jaime like takes him by the hand and says he's going to kill everyone in Westeros just until like they're the only people left in the world, like that's what makes her feel good, 'cause it makes her feel special, and just because I love Jaime's such a good, like the epitome of what this show is about, of like kind of flipping the bloody genre on its head, like changing what you think into something that's more relatable and more actually human.
Right, absolutely, and not following the tropes, and having a character who can really change from the first episode, the pilot episode, where he just threw a kid out of a window for really just his own benefit, and then you find out, but in the past he did something that he would make him look horrible to other people. And also in the present, he does things like defend Brienne. And so I think that kind of complexity is what you don't always see on television, and that good television can do really well, because humans aren't just all good or all bad. And Jaime's probably an extreme example of that. But yeah, I think that his complexity and the sort of, his journey that he has been on have been really one of my favorite parts of the show, and it's why I like the character so much, even though, yes, they were at war, in his opinion, when he attacked Ned in the street, but it was really a a dick move when he did that. It was not. So yeah, you were at war, but you did not have to do it the way that you did it. And he would have been perfectly happy if he had been able to kill Ned at that point, I think.
Most likely, but of course there was that thing where like Ned said, "If you kill me, your brother dies." And then Jaime says, "All right, take Ned captive, but kill all of his men."
Right.
Like he could have said,
Right.
like, let's just capture all the men, come quietly. Just like, yeah, he's so good.
Yeah, and those were things that show that he was not always reasonable, but he's just a very complex character, and I have really loved seeing his journey, even though that's very cliched that he was on a journey. But
yeah,
is he on the hero's journey? I don't know.
I don't think that involves pushing a kid out the window. I think it's a little more.
It doesn't.
Frodo, we must fight the darkness.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of Jaime's main thing this episode, and he was so nice to Brienne because people say like I was watching the episode with my sister, and I was like, oh yeah, Brienne loves Jaime, and she's like, wait, what? And like even the double D's, David and Denioff, what's his name?
Yes, David. I just call him Dave and Dan because I can't remember which initials go with which last name.
Gotcha. The double D's, yeah. Like they even said like, oh, Brienne obviously loves Jaime. I'm like, yeah, I knew that because like Brienne stood up for Jaime, and like Jaime's done some pretty bad stuff. I mean, apparently to the world, like because he kind of tells it later on that like he did, like when he talks with Bran that maybe him pushing Bran out the tower isn't common knowledge because basically everyone who theorized that is dead besides Robb Stark, who is dead, Catelyn, who is dead, Ned Stark, who's dead. Everybody's dead who thinks that Jaime pushed him out the window,
right? Except Bran.
Bran.
Yeah.
But because Jaime, when Brienne stands up, like, oh yeah, like he kept like people from raping me, and he cost him his hand. I'm like, that's not exactly true because he also tried to bribe Locke, and that's how he kind of lost his hand. But okay, that's good. It's good, Brienne. Good job. But
it was a big risk he put himself at to try to save her, and he didn't have to go back for her.
Absolutely,
when he found her fighting the bear. He did not have to do that.
I love that. That was. Yeah, he's one of the best characters for this show, just to represent everything that's going to happen, as opposed to, like, Dany, for example, who's going to have a moment similar to Jaime in, like, the next 2 episodes,
Yes.
I imagine.
Yes.
Anything else to say about Jaime?
I don't think so. I think that pretty much he's one of my favorite characters, and he has been ever since that road trip he took with Brienne. So, I just think it was beautiful the way that he knighted her, and it was
so good.
just such a moment. And I love the banter between Jaime and Tyrion. So I guess I did have a little more to say about him, but yeah, he's just definitely one of my very favorite characters.
It's funny because, like, you think of the actual runtime, like Tyrion and Jaime. It's kind of a classic thing in this TV show where there's so much past history, but Jaime and Tyrion have shared maybe like 17 minutes of screen time together because they were like best buds in season 1 for like an episode, and then best buds in season 4 for an episode, and then enemies in season 7, and then enemies, and like he hasn't had that much talk with his brother, like not a lot, like maybe like an hour total. But like seeing them talk about Cersei and talk about all these issues, it's good. But it's scary because like you think about we'll kind of go through person by person with this case, but like people who have plot armor at this point to like face Cersei, it's one of those classic things of like, I don't think the Hound is going to die in this battle because there has to be Clegane Ball 2019. Yeah, so he's got
to make it to that.
And
absolutely.
if he and that's the kind of thing, but it's also a plot thing of like, well, he might live, he might die because it's life. But like, if Clegane Bowl doesn't happen, I'm gonna be so mad. I don't think I'm gonna watch a show. Like, I literally might not watch the show. Like, Clegane Bowl is one of the top 3 reasons I'm watching the show. I will, but
you're right. I mean, and I don't like knowing that. That has to happen later, so therefore he has to live. But also remember that what George, with too many R's, Martin has done is turn these tropes and these your expectations on their head.
Yeah.
So maybe there is no Clegane Bowl, which isn't good. But what if Arya kills the Mountain? But still, it really does need to be the Hound, and it seems like everything is leading to that because when they met in season 7. The Hound said, "I'm coming for you." Yeah, I'm coming for you. So it seems like it has to happen that way, which does mean the Hound will have to survive.
Absolutely. And like also Jaime being able to confront Cersei again, because I feel like last time they talked, he wasn't able to say like what was exactly what he thought about so much on the road to Winterfell. He didn't say like, Cersei, I loved you, but you don't love me, and this is the reason why I'm stabbing you in the back. Oh, wildfire explosion. Oh, King's Landing. What? He's a series finale. But since we are expecting, at least I am, for Jaime to have like one last conversation with Cersei before he kills his unborn child inside of her and has the ultimate Shakespearean ending, I assume that's going to happen, which why I think he has plot armor. Do you think that's possible or legitimate?
I definitely think it's possible, even though I sort of have this feeling right now like everybody's going to die next week. I really do feel like everybody is going to die in episode
Cersei in the
3.
City for the next last 4 episodes.
Exactly. With Cersei and Euron, whole different show, right? But yeah, I think there has to be that moment. Cersei has to meet someone for her final moments, and it makes sense only for it to be Jaime, I think.
Yeah.
Although Tyrion had the great line where he said, I will become dead and I will go to King's Landing. And, you know, but I think really that it's probably got to be Jaime, and it's going to tear him apart because he does love her.
Yeah, I just like I said, we're so worried because this is the classic calm before the storm, Helm's Deep, before 10 minutes before the battle kind of thing. So I think we're good for Jaime for now, but for Tyrion, poor guy, he's been on the back foot for a while here. Like, he didn't succeed with the slavers of Meereen. He didn't succeed in making Cersei go to his side. He didn't succeed in getting the Lannister army. As Dany rightfully questions, when they're in that hallway, it's like, you either a traitor because she's not coming, or you're a fool. Which is what Sansa basically said to Littlefinger when Littlefinger gave her away to the Boltons.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's right.
Which is very similar because, it's the kind of thing where it's like, do you punish incompetence with dragonfire?
Right, exactly. Is this an executable offense? Do you turn Dragon on him? I do wonder, though, like you said, in Meereen, he failed. I don't think he completely failed because he ultimately he failed, but he managed to keep things peaceful for a few more days so that Dany could come back.
Barely. But he got attacked, so they didn't honor the slavers were slavers and didn't honor their word.
Right, which is not a big surprise.
But also, he had the military tactful decision of sending Yara and Martell people to get the armies of Dorne, and that backfired too because they got attacked by Euron, and it's just sad because Tyrion does so well in height of season 2. Oh, Stannis is coming to the city and we need to defend. That's peak Tyrion with all this political intrigue, but now it's all this he's not a tactician, No,
I think he got lucky on some of those decisions, and the Battle of the Blackwater. He got pretty lucky there, although he certainly stepped up to the challenge. So I don't know if he's been sort of written to be not quite as clever for the purposes of the plot, or if it really makes sense for the character or not. What do you think?
That's a good point because, I would have been so mad at the end of season set 6. Dany rocks up with 100,000 Khalasar, you know what? We're going to have slavery for another 7 years. Sounds amicable. I agree. And Tyrion's like, yeah, my plan worked. I'm the best. I didn't want to see that. I wanted to see Daenerys kill slavers and burn down their ships.
Exactly.
So that's good. That's a good reason for plot stuff because it doesn't make sense plot-wise for Cersei not to help her sworn enemies, thus making Tyrion wrong in thinking that she will help her sworn enemies. So that is a very interesting thing between plot convenience and Tyrion's plans going awry, which is unfortunate for his character. It's for plot conveniences, Jon has to die. Oh, that sucks. Well, he's back from the dead.
Right, exactly. We have to fool people. But so it's never good when there are changes in a character or things done just to help the plot, because that's a lazy way to write the story. But I don't know. Also, how could someone always be as clever as Tyrion was in those early seasons? It would be pretty tough to always be that smart and always be able to predict what other people were going to do. And Cersei did fool him. Cersei definitely fooled him. Now, should he have trusted anything she said? Absolutely not. But they all did.
Yeah.
Sansa says that to Dany, you shouldn't have trusted Cersei. Because really, Dany did too.
because she trusted Tyrion. But like, if Tyrion was around in season 5, 6, and 7, he would have, 5 and 6, he would have realized that like, oh, I cannot trust anything Cersei says.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I feel like after she blows up the Sept of Baelor and kills countless lords and everybody, like, how can like, when they went to the dragon pit, like, that was for plot reasons so they could all talk, but there is no reason why she wouldn't have filled that entire pit of dragon fire and killed everyone, right? It's besides plot reasons.
Right.
Like, don't trust her. Just Tyrion in general, this episode, he was sent to the crypts basically to hide and be away from battle, which, is important because, Jorah has the, well, Khaleesi, you must realize that Tyrion is the... Because, like, it's good for Jorah, who doesn't have much to do at this point, to say, like, yeah, Tyrion's the right guy for this, even though he made mistakes, and I made mistakes too. But Tyrion is planning, I'm guessing, after the final scene of this episode, to go down in the crypts and be completely and utterly safe. So, any other opinions of what do you think Tyrion might do in the next coming up seasons or episodes, or his fate?
I think if he is, because I was surprised to see him up on the ramparts once the horn blew, because he had said that he appeared to agree that he would go down to the crypts. So I assume that's where he's headed, and I guess he can still get there. But I don't think the crypts are nearly as safe as we have been led to believe. And
they said it so much in this episode. The crypts, the crypts, no problem.
The crypts are safe. And then you have this poor little girl who's going to defend the crypts.
Oh, governor, I want to fight. Like, you saw my notes, like that was like, when I only have 4.5 hours left of Game of Thrones, I don't need a scene of Oliver Twist talking to Davos like, please, sir, can I have some more? I look like Shireen. Like, it was cute,
just like Shireen. But I have some thoughts about that I'll share if we
crypt
or the little girl. But I think as far as what's going to happen to Tyrion, I think because the crypts are not going to be as safe as perhaps we've been led to believe, that he may be called upon to once again, just as with the Battle of the Blackwater, step up and do more than he's expected to do. Right?
Mm-hmm. Maybe the little girl pushed Tyrion out of the way and be like, I'm in charge now. I'm in charge.
Or too bad Lyanna Mormont's not going to be down there, and she could take charge. But Tyrion may be the most strategic person who's in the crypts, and so I wonder what he'll have to do. But I don't think it will be just sitting down there safely waiting for the end of the battle.
Yeah, I doubt that. I didn't even think about, like, if the Night King can bring back the dead, does that count as, like, just the utteral bones of Lyanna Stark, and comes, like... Because last time we saw Ned, his head was on a spike.
Right.
So did Littlefinger, who may have even lied about bringing Ned's bones back to Catelyn Stark, did it also include his skull? It's a kind of like zombie logic we're trying to have to like make here.
Right, because his head would definitely not be on his body. And can the Night King bring back people from the dead? Who I assume that he can, because
Iron
the
Giant
only
style.
way, right, the only way to kill the dead is either with fire or with dragon glass, and or Valyrian steel.
Yes, because it works on walkers. We assume.
But in those crypts, don't all of the kings have like their sword with them?
Yeah, so that's something from the books that hasn't mentioned in the TV show, I believe, where there's basically an iron sword resting on top of their graves, which is supposed to be apparently some kind of magic protection against.
Oh,
like the Night King maybe, or like an ancient type of Stark tradition that maybe is protection. But I mean, the books aren't exactly super important this late in the game.
Right,
so
exactly, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Gilly's making a pillow that is the shape of her, Sam, and little Sam, a family portrait, and like, oh, stab in the face. What?
Right.
Lyanna Stark is back.
Yeah, exactly, and on the wrong side, and. I really wonder what is happening, because they've made such a big deal out of the crypts. Going back to the very first, I think it was the first preview for the season, the first teaser kind of thing was about the crypts of Winterfell.
Yeah, that was...
And, so the crypts are very, very important. And I don't think people are going to be safe. And I think that question about bringing back the dead is a really good question.
Or we can't get like a dope like Sean Bean cameo where he's like, oh, I'm back.
I've been wondering, but
we're
will it just be Ned's body without his head?
It'll just be bones. Like, I won't like... Lyanna Stark at this point, however old Jon is, like he's like 21 maybe or something, like... It's all just bones, so I'm curious, like if like Iron Giant style, where like all the pieces come together to form a perfect skeleton.
Yeah,
like, that's gonna look silly unless it's like explained well, or Bran gives like some like classic dialogue to Theon, like he's like, "Oh, I didn't see this coming," and then he explains to like.
Yeah, some explanation of why this is happening. But otherwise, I don't know what's going to happen in the crypt. So that's one of the big unanswered questions.
Because it's a classic like Game of Thrones thing of like, oh, Lyanna was definitely kidnapped and raped, not consensually, wink, wink, like saying that like once every season at least.
Right, and then it turns out it's totally not true.
Mm-hmm. So moving on here, anything you want to say about Oliver Twist Girl and
yes.
Davos?
Here's what I think that was setting up, because the crypts are not safe, and she was so cute, and she reminded Sir Davos of Shireen. Obviously, that was on purpose. That was Shireen's music playing at that point too.
Oh, really?
Which, yes, I cannot claim credit for knowing that. I read that on the internet. But yeah, that was Shireen's music playing. And I do think that it was just kind of this moment to do two things. Number one, to show that all of these people are basically refugees coming inside to Winterfell to try to be safe. And also to create some sort of connection with her, because I think that would be a death they could show with a character that would be kind of heartbreaking because of your little bit of limited connection to
Red
her.
shirt screen time, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that may be what it was about, but also to give Davos kind of his moment. Although you're right though, what you said about, do you really want to spend that time with so little time left on
like
the Oliver Twist moment?
Yeah.
But I do think that little girl's not long for this world.
Yeah.
And that it will be more impactful because we have seen her be so sweet and want to fight for like her brothers did, who were soldiers.
I love that red shirt guy was talking to Davos like, I'm not a fighter, sir. And he's like, go to the forgery. He's like, go to the forge, you'll get outfitted. He's like, can I get some plot armor, sir? He's like, no, we can't have any more for you. Sorry, no one has plot armor at this point, kid. Get out of here.
Right, but he wasn't cute enough. I don't even know if I would recognize him again.
I think he was later in the scene, like when he had chainmail, kind of the
oh,
hood.
really?
Oh, you didn't recognize him?
No, I didn't even recognize him then. I think those were to show, though, that they're bringing everybody in. Everybody's going to have to fight. And
I want to fight.
Yeah, and to show that it's all the people who live around there, too, not just...
The stakes are everything.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And obviously, I care about this little girl who was cute, wants to defend her brother, but I don't care for the two girls who might have been racist toward my Sandy and Grey Worm, which is kind of funny.
But wasn't she one of them, though? I think that girl was... There were two girls... when Missandei tried to talk to them, and one of them sort of had long blonde hair and was a little older, and I do believe the other girl with her that she took her hand and got her to walk away was that little girl.
Really?
I think it was.
That would be funny. Like, she's so sweet, but she's also racist. Wow.
Well, no, she was being led by other girl. Plus, it's a matter of that they have never seen anyone that looks like that in their world. This is not our same world, but they've just literally... She looks strange to them. And we know that Northerners don't trust outsiders. They don't like outsiders.
But on Missandei and Grey Worm, the characters are cute and stuff. I'm glad they had their little romance scene, or just towards one person romance scene, whatever, last season. But I care. But it's just cute being like, oh, we'll go. Do you want to grow old here? And she's like, no, let's. We're gonna go away and have a perfectly happy life. It's nice, but you guys are both gonna die. Why are you trying to?
I know. That was very much the moment where they're planning for the future, and it was kind of like, okay, you're dead. You're dead. Yeah. There is no future for you guys. It's over. But I think they have been sort of fan favorites, or they were in the early days. I've been kind of over them for a while. And
you're not a shipper?
No. Well, I mean, I was glad they got together. And I don't dislike the characters, but I didn't need that moment with them at all.
I get that.
I feel like I really didn't need that moment.
A moment I did love is we'll talk about this really annoying plot thing that keeps happening. So last episode, Dany is talking with Jon. She says, if your sister can't respect me, then... And then Khalasar rides up hey, dragons are eating food. What? And then in this episode, Dany and Sansa says, what's about the North? Oh, excuse me, I have to interrupt this conversation. Theon's here. And then Dany and Jon, Dany's been interrupting a lot. She's like, you have a claim to Iron Throne, and Jon's like, this is exactly how I feel about that.
Right,
Like,
yeah, it's been very
that
annoying.
is very annoying. Like, I was hoping by this episode 2, we would at least, like, I guess by episode 4, then maybe, like, Dany is dying of her wounds slowly, and that's when she gives all of her power to Jon. Like, just, like, this episode was great. All the Tormund stuff was amazing. All the great talking and, like, preparing for battle. But just, like, the main thing we want to see, like, in the one that will progress the plot and the drama is, like, how Dany and Jon react, and we got, like, 3 seconds of it.
Right, exactly. And I don't think that it's going to pay off after the battle maybe as much as it would now, because I just don't know who's going to survive.
Exactly. And it's I think it's good Jon told her, but, like, imagine you are, like, a roller skater or some other great like classic 80s movie, like, you know, the dad always like, hey son, I accept you, go get out there and do your best. Imagine if that happened. It's like, hey Billy, I'm not actually your dad, and you and your stepmom we're getting a divorce. Like, telling someone, dropping a bomb on
right,
like Michael Phelps that you're breaking up with him before he goes in the Olympics. Like, tell him right after Jaime's trial, like right before the biggest battle of their lives.
Yeah, it's
like,
a bit
come
questionable.
on.
But then he avoided her after Jaime's trial. He avoided her again later. He's, his sort of wishy-washiness came back to haunt him. And even Samuel said, "So you haven't told her yet?" And he said, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to tell her later." And Samuel says, "You're looking for the perfect moment." Yeah, well, right before we have to go do battle with this dead army. That's a good time.
Good moment, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a very good moment to choose there, Jon.
Speaking of good moments, because, like, we can talk about, like, that reveal, but, like, there's nothing to talk about because Dany didn't reveal, like, her opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
But one thing we saw was Ghost. Ghost is back.
Ghost is there.
Like, there have been great memes of, like, have you seen this direwolf for, like, season 6 and 7? Like, we finally saw Ghost.
Ghost is here.
Like, they had no dragons this episode, so they could put the $12 million budget to having a big to CGI bigging up a dog and putting him in the background and not even interact with anybody.
Well, and Ghost and Nymeria, is it Nymeria, are the only two direwolves left, right? Yeah.
Original 2.
So I'm sure Nymeria is there somewhere.
Nymeria comes back from her pack, saves Arya, and Arya rides Nymeria into battle.
Right.
What?
Or to King's Landing to kill Cersei.
She might be small enough. That could work. Oh my gosh, that'd be so cool.
Yeah, it would. Wow.
That's my preconceptions about what's going to happen. It's going to ruin it for me. But we're getting low on time here, but Jaime still thinks Cersei is pregnant, which we kind of assumed last week.
Yes.
Like Jaime says, like, I feel like if he thought that it wasn't true, he would have been like, oh, after all this time thinking on my way to Winterfell on the King's Road, I thought maybe she lied, but I guess it's true. And
at least he still believes her. I'm not sure.
Yeah, really? Yeah, you still think it's...
Yeah, I'm still not sure. I wasn't sure last week. I thought that after Euron was patting her on her belly, that I'm going to put a prince in your belly. Oh, Joffrey used to talk. He talked like that to Sansa. But I'm not sure if she is or not. And I don't know how that really connects to anything, since it didn't change her behavior, even though Tyrion thought that it would. So I don't know. That's a little weird to me. But Jaime obviously believes it.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of weird, what do you think of the Gendry and Arya scene?
I loved that.
I thought it was cute because, like, she's right. We're all going to die soon. Why not?
Right.
But also, like, it's like your little sister, feels like, to me.
Yeah,
because
she was just a little bitty kid when the show started.
And plot-wise, it's only been like 5 years since Robert Baratheon first went to Winterfell.
Oh, really? Is that right?
Like, maybe 5 years, because season 5 and season 6, it's like season 5, there's no gap between season 5 and season 6 time-wise. So, like, maybe she started that show as, like, 10, and now she's, like, 16, 17. But, like, Gendry, like, the actor is 31 years old.
I know. And I actually did read an interview with him about it. And he said it was really weird because he's known her since she was, like, 11.
It's strange.
But in the end, they're both professional, and it was
adults.
Okay. And they're adults.
In this world, at least, like, for her legal age and stuff.
But he said it was weird, too, because back then she was always just like this little kid on the set.
Yeah,
and so
that's got to be weird for him.
Weird. weird for him. Although I don't think Gendry, the character, minded very much.
Yeah.
And I loved their interaction at the forge when she went to ask him about her weapon.
Yeah.
And she was throwing the dragon glass.
I like a pillar, and that guy to the left was just like, "What the heck?" Oh,
right. I gotta get out.
Good thing
of
she's a
here,
good
this
shot.
crazy
Yeah.
woman. So she's gonna get me. But yeah, I loved that part, and so I think that was the foreplay at the forge.
Yeah.
Because I think he was really impressed with her, but I think he was surprised at her decision too. But
it's funny because why do you think she was awake like afterwards after Devil's Tango during the montage?
Yeah.
I think it's because she thought, I should have gone to Pod the Rod, who is back, baby.
No,
Pod the
yes,
Rod
Pod
is back. He's a
back,
great.
and
He's
he can sing.
He can sing. He's a good sword
He can
fighter. He's a ladies'
sing.
man. Like
Right.
Pod
Well, is she thinking that? Because I do think it's funny that she asked him about his experience before telling him her decision.
Yeah,
I kind of thought that was interesting. It's like, okay, how many women have you been with? But I don't think that's why she was awake. I think she's just she thinks she's gonna die.
Yeah. Speaking of likely pairings, anything else to say about Arya or what she might happen? Cool.
I'm good.
She's got like a normal spear. If you look back at that drawing she drew, it looks really weird and bulky, like a tube, and like I thought it was like a gun
this
or
whole
something.
Thing that you could take apart and everything.
But it's just a spear for maybe just more speed and agility. But
and being able to do it from further away.
Yeah, which is important because a Valyrian steel dagger only gets you so far when you're fighting like hordes and hordes.
Right.
By the way, because I did think it's gonna be like a World War Z situation, but apparently there's a bunch of also like knight generals who are like have horses, but like they have dragon glass like on the walls, like there's like even like a rolly thing that will like make sure like it doesn't break off. It's so cool and smart.
I really liked that, and when they were up talking on the ramparts, there was dragon glass all over there, like poking up, so almost like barbed wire, but made of dragon glass. I thought that was really cool.
I really hope that dragon glass works like kryptonite. So for example, if a giant white like touches the battlement and gets some on his hand, does that mean like he just dissolves the dust, or does it have to puncture their heart or brain?
That's a good question.
Because that's a good point. Because it's magic. I think if a giant touches it with his fingertip, then he should turn to dust. I guess.
I hope it's kryptonite. They don't.
Yeah,
have
here's
to
hoping because
right. That will be a lot better.
I hope they're good at getting headshots and chest shots with arrows and catapults. But I'm excited for that fight. I'm glad they're doing glad they're setting up. They had like the caltrops, which is like the big X's.
Yes.
They put that's smart. I like that.
Yeah, and then remember that if you kill the White Walker that turns certain whites, then the whites die too.
Exactly. Yeah.
So hopefully that will help matters, but I don't have a lot of high hopes for survival, and Jorah may be first.
Oh no!
I mean, because you're right, there hasn't been a whole lot for him to do, but he may be the first to go. I'm afraid.
Yeah. So Sansa and Theon, that hug was so good. I loved it so much.
Oh my gosh! And I thought I would never ship Sansa and Theon.
I know, right? They've been through some bad stuff in that place.
Her response to him was unbelievable, but it was so realistic too. It was so heartfelt. So
yeah. Tormund. It's a kind of classic episode 2 where like all the storylines getting wrapped up, characters would talk to each other and resolve, and like Arya had more of a better conversation with the Hound where like she's like, why are you fighting for this at all? And he says like, I fight for you, didn't I? And it's like, aw.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he really, if as much as he can have feelings for somebody, he had feelings for her.
Yeah, but so many, like we said, so many storylines wrapping up. Like Tormund had so many great lines this episode.
Yes.
That, like if he died next episode, I would hate it. But I mean, like, you can't live forever, and that was a pretty hit. Like when he's talking to Brienne, he's like, "This might be our last night together," and she's like, "Yes, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you survived Eastwatch.
Right. I'm glad. Yes, I'm not
Fighting
glad
with
you're
us.
here with me, but I'm glad you're here. Yeah, I love Tormund.
Yeah, that fireplace scene was so good and everything. Like it's a calm before the storm, but like I said, the one problem I have with the episode is that like we kept kind of pushed the Aegon reveal to Jon like the very last scene of last episode, and then we pushed the Aegon reveal to Dany the very last scene of this episode.
Oh, yeah, that's a really good point. And I just thought that Jon took so long to tell her. It was sort of ridiculous. And also, what hasn't happened that I expected to happen by now is that Dany would be say she was pregnant.
Yeah.
And that hasn't happened, so I'm kind of surprised.
Dany had some really funny eye bulging moments where it's like, oh, why isn't Yara here? And she's like, and Theon explains like, oh, I'm here for Sansa, who's way better than you. She's like, like, grr.
Oh.
And then when like she was looking at Jon with those intense like laser eyes, I thought she was gonna take out a knife and stab him like, you're the only male heir, huh? Hey, look that way. Slap. Like, I don't know.
Would
like,
have been surprised, but in her world, in the Targaryens, the fact that he is her nephew is not disturbing to her, probably, because in their world that's been kind of normal, but she just went straight to that thing. Oh, then you are an heir, and you could almost hear her thinking, you are a threat to me.
Yeah, but
you are a threat to the one thing I want.
Exactly. Both characters like don't even say like, oh, I've been having sex with my aunt. Like that's not the first thing they say. Obviously, the first thing they say is because they're people who are honorable and have responsibilities, and that's kind of her been responsibility. Anything else to say about what do you think Dany might do next besides flying on a dragon, which is pretty much
Yeah, she's going to fly on a dragon, and we're going to see what happens with the other dragon that is now working with the bad side.
Mm-hmm.
So,
do you think the one cringy moment I had this episode, we're almost out of time here, but when Bran was like, the Night King wants to have a long night forever, and like he wants to kill me, so we lose all the knowledge of the world, and then Sam looks at the camera and like it's a public like a Reagan like don't do drugs. He's like, I guess if we lose part of ourselves, that's what dying truly is. Because if you forget who you are, then who even are we as people? I'm like, okay, Shakespeare, relax. Like this is a lot of pontification. Like you're in a war council. He's like, I suppose that's what death is, being forgotten and not knowing who you love anymore. And it's like, okay, he also wants to exterminate the entire world. So I guess
too much explanation there that was not needed. But yeah, I was interested to see why the Night King wants Bran or why he's after Bran. So, it would be interesting to see what happens there and what happens to Theon.
Finally got explained. Yeah, Theon. Yeah, I can defend you. Just give me 20 good men.
Yes.
Like I was last time I was here. But I love finally knowing like, oh, he wants to have a long night. It's pretty simple. Like the tornado force wants more tornadoes. So
yeah, he wants to be in charge of the world and nobody else to be able to interfere.
One more problem I had with it is that Dany, when she says like, oh, that's Rhaegar, he said people told me he was decent and kind, he would give money to poor children, but he raped your sister. Definitely. I don't believe in this world that there's not one fan theory by anyone in the Seven Kingdoms that Rhaegar and Lyanna actually loved each other, like at all. Like there's a lot of gray stuff in the show. Like I said, like how people view Jaime, how Tyrion views Jaime, how Sansa views Jaime, how the normal people view Jaime. But for like everyone in the kingdom, like even like the Targaryen controllers and like the people, like there's no like Stark loyalist who like was the best friend of Lyanna Stark who told her the truth about how she actually likes Rhaegar. Like it's just set in stone, like, oh, Rhaegar definitely did this. Like, Dany doesn't even believe, like, oh, maybe he was a good guy. You know what I mean?
Yes. Even she as his sister, I mean, she never knew him, but she grew up hearing that story and believed it. And it didn't make sense with other things she had been told about him. And there was somebody else at one point who mentioned that they had heard only good things about Rhaegar.
Barristan, wasn't it?
Yes. And they didn't understand how that it could be possible that he had done this horrible thing. Now, it still was pretty horrible that he dumped his Dornish wife and got an annulment.
Yeah, where it's like
with
Rhaegar,
his children.
No, Rhaegar was a great guy. He divorced his wife.
Right.
And one of the sons that Elia Martell, sister of Oberyn Martell, a.k.a. Grapefruit Crush guy by the Mountain versus Viper, Elia Martell had a son named Aegon, and then he named Jon Aegon.
Yes.
Which is really weird, but I think it wraps up for today. Any other predictions? Anything you just like excited for? Any other closing thoughts?
Oh, I just have this horrible feeling about next week that
Tormund, Jorah, probably Theon, Grey Worm. Like this cast is like maybe like 55 people, like 45 maybe, and I feel like at least 15, like maybe Gilly and Little Sam.
Oh no.
The red shirt, all the new red shirts that were introduced in this episode to feel pity for them, and
they're all gonna buy it. So yeah, it's gonna be very, very sad because there were tons of people killed in that Red Wedding episode all at one time. In the Septa Baylor episode, all of the people in the Sept and Tommen.
At least we know it's coming. A little bit more, but because we like in the Red Wedding, like at least if you weren't spoiled, you didn't know. You were like, oh my gosh! But in this one, I'm just like, I'm batting down my emotional hatches and just ready to cry.
The body count is going to have to be really high because if it's not consistent with the story.
If it's just like the Night King just wins, and next 4 episodes just time lapse of him ruling on the Iron Throne as snow piles up around him.
Yeah, will Cersei be the Night Queen?
Ooh, that would be very strange. She's gone from her brother, her cousin, Euron, Night King, and she's a very diverse woman. I'll give her that.
I don't know.
But I think that wraps up for today. I'm Drew.
I'm Becky.